want you to bleed for me.
Good evening, everybody. Thank God it's Friday. That's right, a special shoot episode coming your way, episode number 14. Shoot Another Flyer show here on a Friday night, 8 p.m. Let us know how you think about it. It's a little late for me, I'm not going to lie. Usually winded down by this point. It's about the second period of a hockey game. Okay, that's a straight lie. I'm not winding down by this point. Second period of a hockey game. That's usually where my mentality is. But you know what? I'm here with you today, Friday night, waiting for a snowstorm here in Philadelphia. A couple of inches shouldn't be that bad. But what you've got to look forward to here on Friday night with me, Chris Babos, Philadelphia Sports Network at C Babos Writes is where you can find me on social media. There's a couple of things we're going to cover today. We're going to take a look at the last 4 games in the week for the Philadelphia Flyers. A rough week, 0-3-1 was the weekly output. So they played well against Toronto, not so much last night against Dallas, but we'll cover all of that. We'll talk about the Flyers' 4-game losing streak and how it kind of isn't everything it's chalked up to be. Definitely it was a situation where John Tortorella felt his team played better earlier in the week than later in the week. We'll cover that. Gauthier, that guy, he makes his return to Philadelphia for his first NHL game in Philadelphia. Not his first NHL game overall. He's played plenty of them. But his first game in Philadelphia. Get a South Philadelphia welcome. It's going to be interesting to see not only how the Flyers deal with hopefully an energized building down on South Broad Street, but how Gauthier, how the Anaheim Ducks deal with what should really just be a very simple trip to Philadelphia and West Coast versus East Coast matchup. But instead, here we are, Philadelphia always making mountains out of molehills. I think that's the phrase. So Gauthier makes his return. And we'll take a look at the rest of the week beyond just tomorrow night's game with the Anaheim Ducks. So thank you very much for tuning in to the Friday night episode here of Shoot Another Flyers show. As we mentioned at the top, 0-3-1 for the Flyers. They're 3-7 in their last 10. There's one offside. Sam is healthy. He's back. Talked to John Tortorella earlier today. He said that there's no way that they would have put Sam Urson in between the pipes if he was not healthy. The trainers gave him the green light. That's all the coaching staff needs. So Sam Urson is back, and that's good. How the Flyers play in front of him, not quite so good, but we'll cover that. They played well in front of Fedotov, for whatever that's worth. The Flyers still managed to get 1 point out of a possible 8 in the 4 games last week. It was an uneven December for the Philadelphia Flyers, 5-7-1. A new year, it's the same result with that 0-3-1 start. 1 point out of those 8 possible points, but here's where the alarm bells start to ring a little bit. 51 points of the NHL season have been given out across the board. We are past the halfway mark in the NHL. Philadelphia has collected 24% of 51 points. Yes, I did the math. I'm a math nerd. I love numbers sometimes. So it's pretty crazy when you think Philadelphia, 39 out of a possible 84 points they could have collected to this point. They have 46%, not even 50% of the points that have been available to them. They still find themselves hanging around, though. It's a very tight Metro division. We'll get to that in a little bit. So there is room for upward mobility. But there's also very much room for the Flyers to continue to drop like a stone, stay in the bottom of the Eastern Conference standings. And as we'll talk about, it might not be the worst thing. as we head towards this summer because Daniel Briere has a whole boatload of assets at his disposal. But we'll touch on that in one moment. The upcoming week I always like to touch on just to give people an idea of what's coming in Flyers land. The Anaheim Duck game tomorrow night at 7 p.m. The reigning world champion Florida Panthers come into town on Monday, I believe it is. And then the Columbus Blue Jackets will be next Tuesday night. Will be the Columbus Blue Jackets and the Philadelphia Flyers. I'm checking the date, so just bear with me for 1 second because I don't think I had my date right. Flyers and Panthers are on Monday, so they play Saturday, Monday, and then a quick turnaround. And next Tuesday, which we're planning to come to you at 6:30, but stay tuned to social media channels, testing out some things. So let us know what you think about 6:30. Let us know what you think about 8 p.m. on Friday nights. Because if you guys like it, I'll still be here to do it. Weekly highlights. I always like to touch on something that's not exactly the games. And really cool scene the other day in practice. Sean Couturier, random drill, nothing really all of that special. Sean Couturier fires a shot, goes over the shoulder of Sam Urson, absolutely obliterates a water bottle. Team celebrates like they scored a goal in the playoffs, maybe. Maybe not that dramatic, but they celebrate, big hugs, high fives, head taps for Sean Couturier. I'm taking pictures because I just happen to walk down. I love sports photography. I love videography. It's just you get such cool stuff. And somehow I happened to be in the right place, right time, and I got a picture of Sean Couturier's shot and the bottle essentially exploding above the net with the water pouring out of the top and everything. Check out C Babos Rights on social media, cbabosrights.bksy.social, I think it is. And you can check out the picture. One of the coolest sports photos I've ever taken. I had the chance to show it to Sean Couturier earlier today, and that was really cool. And Owen Tippett tried to clown me a little bit, but I'm on to you, Mr. Tippett. Just saying. All right, Philadelphia Flyers. Last week we mentioned 0-3-1, not really the greatest week. Could have picked up to 8 points. They walk out with 1 point in the standings, and that's not what you want to do with the Metro as tight it is. But before we get to this week, circling back, Philadelphia Flyers, Anaheim Ducks. A couple days before New Year's. Philadelphia Flyers ended up winning 3-1. Noah Cates scored the first goal of the game in the second period. Troy Terry tied it. And then Morgan Frost and then Joel Farabee into the empty net for a 3-1 Philadelphia win. Just wanted to circle back on that because they are, the Philadelphia Flyers, are playing the Anaheim Ducks tomorrow. And I think it's notable that the Flyers walked in to Honda Center and walked out with a 3-1 win. I do think that there's a chance that they do it again tomorrow. But again, we'll get to that in a little bit. A couple nights later, the Flyers traveled to the Las Vegas. Battle of the Vegas Golden Knights, one of the best teams in the NHL, results in a 5-2 loss. Tyson Forrester opened the scoring 21 seconds into the game. Flyers fans might as well have gone to bed right after that because it was not pretty. 4 unanswered goals for Las Vegas. Konechny power play goal made it 4-2. Sliver of hope. Probably about 12:30 p.m. back east. And then Tanner Pearson caps the scoring 5-2 into the empty net. It was a good game out there in Vegas last week. It's just a tough situation. End of the road trip, 4th road game. Been through through California, another C word. Stopping in Vegas. Who knows how wild Vegas is, but I've heard about the Vegas flu for different NHL teams that have gone there. Not an easy place to play, not only because of the environment, and it seems like a kick-ass environment. So if you ever get the opportunity to go check out a Vegas Golden Knights game, I highly recommend it, even though I haven't done it myself, because the pregame show, the atmosphere that they seem to bring out there in Las Vegas seems absolutely phenomenal. So Philadelphia Flyers dropped the first game of the week out in Las Vegas. Once again, a 5-2 loss. Philadelphia then travels to Toronto, across the border. There's that Canada place I was just talking about. No wonder it was on the brain. 26-13-2, one of the best teams in the Atlantic Division, the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's not the playoffs yet, so they can still win games. Yeah, that's right, I said it. Resulted in a 3-2 loss for the Philadelphia Flyers. Tyson Forster once again opens the scoring for Philadelphia in the first period. This time 3:24, not seconds into the game, but he did get on the board. And then it was really just good play by Toronto to steal the lead away by the end of the first. Matthew Nyes, and then the defenseman, OEL, Oliver Ekman-Larsson, gave Toronto a 2-1 lead. Scotty Lawton manages to tie it midway through at 11:08. No scoring in the third, and then Morgan Riley ends it in overtime. And that was an interesting game because Ivan Fedotov was just thrust in the net. Had not played meaningful game since December 3rd, I believe it was. And he was pulled in that game. He was pulled in the first period. The game before that, I want to say it was late November. However, he still comes in and gives a hell of an effort for his teammates for the Philadelphia Flyers. The Flyers played excellent defense in front of him, knowing the situation, knowing that they have a fairly cold goaltender coming in, hasn't practiced a ton. There's only 2 nets in practice, technically speaking. Once again, check out my socials at Babos Writes. And you'll see an interesting photo. 3 goalie nets in a line, like they were about to take off from JFK. It's fascinating. I've never seen anything like that in a hockey practice before. But hey, big props to the goalie coach Gillibaugh, finding a way to get all 3 goaltenders at least some meaningful work when the rest of the team is out on the ice. So credit to the Flyers coaching staff for managing the 3 goalie circus. It's not easy to do. There's only 2 nets in practice. Again, generally speaking. Interesting moment of the game up in Toronto. Dennis Hildeby. Yeah, that's right. Who the hell is Dennis Hildeby? Dennis Hildeby, a 23-year-old, 6'7" Swedish goaltender, managed to make 30 saves against the Flyers and 32 shots, and ended up securing 2 points in a big win for Toronto, which ended up being their 4th straight, and they weren't quite done yet. That's right. The Toronto Maple Leafs flew home with the Philadelphia Flyers, not on the same flight, likely, but they traveled back to Philadelphia to play a couple of nights later. Similar result, this time not the overtime point for Philadelphia. A 3-2 loss to the Toronto Maple Leafs, their 5th straight win. Travis Konechny gets 2 goals in the game, his 19th and 20th of the season. Tavares, Austin Matthews, Matthew Nyes. The superstars for the Toronto Maple Leafs did the scoring. That's what you need to have happen. And once again, Ivan Fedotov, in a very tough situation, played pretty well. Yes, save percentage. You'd like it to be a little better than 82%. But honestly, in that situation, 3 goals against a team with the offensive firepower that the Toronto Maple Leafs bring, you should have enough to get that done. They limited Toronto to shots in that game too, just 17 shots. But the ones that Toronto managed to take hit the back of the net. The ones the Flyers did not. Particularly if I remember that game, I don't think I'm mixing games up. I'm pretty sure it was this game. Flyers had a chance to tie it late. Michkov had Tippett wide open at the side of the net, and he missed a wide open net. John Tortorella talked about it the next day, said, we talked to Tippett. You've got to miss in the net. And he's like, not within the post. Like, yes, that would be lovely. But he was basically saying Owen Tippett needs to miss more so around the vicinity of the net. He's got such a good shot, such a hard shot, that when he misses the net, the puck hits the end boards, goes flying out the zone, generally speaking, causes a break for the other team, or at least can lead to that chance where it's putting your defenseman in a tougher situation than they need. Brain had a short meltdown because I just realized Mitch Marner for the Toronto Maple Leafs has 44 assists halfway through the season. I did my stats before this. I did not see that set. That is absolutely insane. Now, granted, he's playing with some absolutely phenomenal players: John Tavares, Matthew Nice, Austin Matthews. But 44 assists for Mitch Marner is definitely something that Toronto fans can hold dear to, at least for now. We'll see what happens when the postseason rolls around. Last night was a tough one. Probably one of the worst games the Philadelphia Flyers have played all season. Again, a difficult contest against a very tough Western Conference opponent in the Dallas Stars, 27-13-2. Really wasn't much of a fight. Philadelphia had a bunch of problems in the game. Their compete level really wasn't there. Uh, you know, Dallas scored 3 times. Morgan Frost scored a third period goal to make it 3-1. Glimmer of hope. But ultimately, they were able to seal it. Them being the Dallas Stars sealed it. Walked away with 3-1 victory. Flyers once again struggling. Lost 4 straight. 3-7 in their last 10, and that's something that's certainly not going to be a recipe for success if the Flyers are trying to make the playoffs. 4-game losing streak halfway through the season is not the time, but it's not exactly unhelpful to the rebuild. The Metropolitan Division is incredibly close. The Washington Capitals are blowing everybody away. Well, not everybody, but they're blowing a lot of teams away. 58 points, 27-10-4. Best team in the Metropolitan. The New Jersey Devils, 54 points. Carolina Hurricanes, 52 points. And then there's a big divide. Columbus, 44. Pittsburgh, 44. The Rangers at 40, and they've been massively struggling. The Islanders at 39 and the Flyers at 39. So 2 wins either way can make a big difference in where you're sitting in the Metropolitan Division. Hand in hand with that, Philadelphia currently sits 8th worst in the NHL overall. Chicago's 14-25-2, they're worst with 30 points. San Jose 13-24-6, 32 points. Nashville, shockingly, after their offseason spending, getting Stamkos. I believe they added March or so. Could be wrong on that one. But either way, they made some big additions. It hasn't worked. 13-21-7, 33 points, third worst team in the league. Flyers have 39 points. That's only 6 points up, and that's 1 week. 1 good week, 1 bad week for the Flyers, 1 good week for these other teams. And the Flyers could be sitting pretty because Philadelphia and Daniel Briere own an absolute boatload of picks, 6 of them in the top 2 rounds of the 2025 NHL draft. They own their own first-round pick, which means how they finish dictates where they're going to be. If they get in the lottery, they could jump up like they did when they had the chance to draft Nolan Patrick. Hopefully, it's a much better ending than the situation with Nolan Patrick. Godspeed, Nolan. I enjoyed being able to watch you. Concussions, I've had a couple, so I understand. So, prayers for health for Nolan Patrick and any of the athletes that have dealt with those kind of issues. Prayers up for Jalen Hurts coming back to the NFL postseason after dealing with that for, I believe it was 17 days. Who's counting? So Philadelphia owns their first pick. They also own Edmonton's pick, top 12 protected, and Colorado's pick, top 10 protected. Edmonton's 25-13-3, so that's most likely going to convey. Colorado 26-16-1, that's most likely going to convey as well. So 2 good trades Danny Briere made. The Edmonton pick was last draft. Briere flipped the 32nd overall pick, the last pick in the first round, for a top 12 protected pick this season. That might end up being 20th. If Edmonton goes back to the Stanley Cup final, 31st, 32nd, okay, you didn't really lose anything. but the opportunity is there. And let's say Edmonton has a quick first round exit. Suddenly you traded a 32nd pick for now a 23rd. That's good value. Same thing with Sean Walker. Sean Walker netted Danny Briere a first round pick. He's had to wait a couple of years to get it. He still might have to wait if somehow Colorado bottoms out. But right now, with 10 games above 500, I would not expect that to be the situation. Philadelphia should get that pick, and that gives Philadelphia 3 of the top 32 options in the draft. If there's somebody Danny Briere and the Philadelphia Flyers Brain Trust want to go get, they have the ammunition to do it just in first round picks. They have their own first round next year. And then there's the second round. Philly has their own second round pick. They have Anaheim's second round pick. They have Columbus's second round pick. That second round pick from Anaheim came in that Cutter Gauthier trade. Everyone says Jamie Drysdale and then has whatever opinion you have of him. I think he still needs a little bit of work. I think he's trying extremely hard to learn the NHL game at the NHL level, and it moves really fast, especially for defensemen. Having said that, it's not crazy for a defenseman to turn around 25, 26, 27 years old, and all of a sudden, something clicks. And then you've got a certifiable top 6, top 4 defenseman. And then you've got a second round pick from the Anaheim Ducks coming your way, a team that right now is 17, 19, and 5. That could be a top 40, top 45 pick, potentially. Columbus Blue Jackets is basically the same thing. Originally came via the Ivan Provorov deal, I believe. It's officially listed as Kevin Connaughton for a first round pick, but there's no way that was the actual trade. Philly got a first and a second round pick, and it was not for Kevin Connaughton. Even EA NHL Sports would laugh you out of the building for that trade offer. Oliver Bonk was the first player that the Flyers chose with that LA pick in 2023. Smartly, Columbus kept their pick last year. They had the option to transfer it to Philly. They picked 4th overall in the second round, number 36. You don't transfer that. It almost doesn't matter how Columbus finishes unless they really, really tank at the end of the year and finish in the bottom 5, like they did last year. So it looks like that's probably still going to have the potential to be a top 50, 55 pick, with them sitting 2 games above 500 right now, the Columbus Blue Jackets. So there's a lot of options for Danny Briere at the draft. I believe it's in California. At least it's scheduled to be. God bless the people out in California right now. What they're dealing with those fires, it's absolutely insane. I love photography, and it's some of the scariest photos that I've seen, and the extent of some of that damage. That's not what you're here for, but I just wanted to give some thoughts out to those that are dealing with those situations and those tragedies. Speaking of tragedies, Cutter Gauthier. Everybody in Philadelphia has their opinion about the Cutter Gauthier situation. I'm on Team Torts. I'm not going to lie. I think Tortorella hits the nail right on the head. I wrote an article about it, phillysportsnetwork.com. Click on the little Flyer section. I'm going to bring it up. Flyers head coach talked about, Cutter Gauthier talked about some changes coming to the lineup, which we'll get to in a moment. But Cutter Gauthier was a kid that had an opportunity to determine his own path, and he took it. Cool, great. Personally, I think he got some bad advice. I think you'd be absolutely hard-pressed to find, I'll say even 3 to 5 better places to play in the NHL. Toronto's got to be up there. Montreal. All right, you know what? Let's loop the whole original 6 needs to be 1. Outside of the original 6, you're not really getting more iconic than the Philadelphia Flyers. So at that point, kid made a choice, good riddance. I think it's a nothing burger. I think it's a fun story for fans to get riled up for. You know, He's going to get a true South Philadelphia welcome. JD Drew got batteries. I hope it's not that extent. Santa Claus. Yeah, we're not going to go there. But Gauthier, a 6'2 winger, has one assist, no S, in his last 5 games. 41 games played this year, 5 goals, 13 assists, 18 points. -1 on the season. He's not blowing the doors off in the NHL, but he's a 6'2 power forward that can shoot. There's a good chance he's going to be a good player for the Anaheim Ducks. I can only imagine how he would look lining up next to Matt Michkov, but we'll never know because they didn't know Michkov was going to be here. And honestly, I don't think that would have impacted Gauthier's decision either way. For all we know, he's a Penguins fan. And sometimes that's just enough. In the trade return was Jamie Drysdale and a second-round pick. We've already kind of touched on that second-round pick and where that could fall. Drysdale, it's been rough. 30 games played, a goal, 6 assists, 7 points, -16, which means he's been on the ice 16 more goals against his team than when he's been on the ice. John Tortorella said very early on he's a work in progress. You can see that on the ice. But there's no doubt that they think there's potential. And I think next year, I've said this for a while now, next year is the important year as far as I'm concerned, and at least how I think the Philadelphia Flyers see it. Next year's the important year for Jamie Drysdale. This year is get his conditioning back a little bit because he has been hurt, banged up, missed a good chunk of time last year. But then even more than that, getting to understand the system that the Flyers want to employ and what he needs to do in order to play meaningful minutes in the NHL. Excuse me. All right, so that pretty much gets us up to looking ahead and the upcoming predictions. So we mentioned the Flyers and the Anaheim Ducks upcoming 17, 19, and 5, 6th place in the Pacific Division, and 5-4-1 in their last 10 for the Ducks. Ola Lexell gets some playing time. He's been with the team since December 28th. He was just recently named an AHL All-Star to represent the Lehigh Valley Phantoms. That's not scheduled until February, so we'll see what happens by that point. But he does draw into a game. John Tortorella didn't say anybody specifically was coming out of the lineup. We have our thoughts in the media room. We had a chance to chat about it. We'll find out tomorrow at pregame skate. So I'll kind of leave it there. I don't want to throw anything out there, but I definitely suspect who might be coming out of the lineup tomorrow for Ola Lexell to get his second NHL game of this season. And he's played well. John Tortorella spent a couple of minutes talking about Ola Lexell earlier today and really breaking down how he's been more comfortable every time he's gotten a chance to come up to play in the NHL and how he ultimately thinks Lexell can be a penalty killer at the NHL level, which is a credit to the defensive effort and the work that he has put in. So, in my prediction, Ola Lexell ends up with a point. Philadelphia Flyers snap their losing streak. That's right. The Philadelphia Flyers, a 4-3 overtime win. Send the crowd home happy. Back on to South Broad Street so you can sit in traffic for half an hour. But at least you got to win for Cutter Gauthier and the Anaheim Ducks. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be the end of the good times for the week in Philadelphia Flyers hockey. Next up is the Florida Panthers. I already mentioned one of the best teams in the Atlantic Division. I believe they're second behind Toronto, 25-5-2 for Florida Panthers. 6-4-0 in their last 10. I think Matt Michkov does get a point, but it's a 4-1 Flyers loss against the defending Stanley Cup champions. And then next Tuesday, the Columbus Blue Jackets, 19-17-6. They've been rolling, absolutely rolling, 7-2-1 in their last 10. Every time I've looked at the standings, they've been in the bottom. Well, now they're fourth. So it's how quick it can happen sometimes. I think it's going to be a tough game for the Flyers to go on the road and win against a team that's playing really well, and they have a reason to play for Johnny Gaudreau. As much of a tragedy as that situation is, it can galvanize a team, and we've seen it many times across the league. So right now they're playing above 500 hockey, and that ultimately might get them into the playoffs. There's a lot of people who were saying that at the beginning of the season that it was a possibility, and here you go halfway through the season, they've put themselves in a position to honor Johnny's legacy the best way they could possibly do, and that's find a way into the postseason. Maybe steal a round, but at least make the postseason. I'd have to think that that's a success for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Ivan Fedotov, I think, allows 2 goals. I think Columbus gets an empty netter from Sean Monahan, and a 3-1 Flyers loss to cap off the week. I'm expecting to be with you next Tuesday, so we'll catch the game, the next of the predictions. After that one, stay tuned to social media. Once again, at CBabos Writes and at shoot_Flyers or Shoot Flyers Show on Blue Sky. And we'll provide you any updates into timing and scheduling. We're doing some testing, trying to figure out when the best time to bring you Flyers content is. So if you have any thoughts, like our guy Dan Berry Sports always does. What's up, Dan? Thanks very much for checking in on this Friday night. So there you have it. We've talked about the weekend Flyers hockey, 0-3-1. Flyers 4-game losing streak, Cutter Gauthier on his way tomorrow. Upcoming week looks to be tough for the Flyers. I have them going 1-2, but then I had them 2-1 this week, and they were 0-3-1. So we'll see how that works. If you missed any episodes, you can find us on YouTube, Philly Sports Network on YouTube. All of the live shows are there, and you can catch the other sports. Are you a Sixers fan? Still processing's coming your way on Thursdays. We've got Eagles fans and Eagles coverage because these guys, that's right, the Philadelphia Eagles are going to the playoffs. They host the Green Bay Packers in what? 24, 36 hours, something like that. Maybe 48. I don't know. Quick math is not my thing. But either way, this weekend, the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers in the NFC wild card. So that'll be fascinating. Keep it locked with Philadelphia Sports Network. All of our guys have been absolutely killing it. I am beyond excited to be a part of that Philadelphia Eagles coverage team for Philly Sports Network. A couple shout outs, our guy Brian Cameron, Antibona, Mike Greger. I'm just gonna go with David, and that's sad because I know his name, but everybody's raving about David and the work that we get from him over at PSN. So if you are an Eagles fan, stay locked in with Flipping the Birds coverage coming your way Tuesdays and Saturdays. And then the Flyers coverage for the NFL. Not the Flyers coverage, the just PSN's coverage of the NFL playoffs. And the quest for, hopefully, the Philadelphia Eagles heading to New Orleans, because that's the goal. But this is the Philadelphia Flyers show, so thanks very much for sticking with us. Catch us every week here on YouTube. Follow the social channels. We'll get you any updates to timing. And I hope you guys have yourself a wonderful weekend. Enjoy all of the football. Enjoy the hockey. There's a lot of it on. And, go Flyers, because that's what you're here for, and that's what you're listening for. So once again, thanks for joining us. Shoot Another Flyers Show, episode 14, coming your way and closing out. Have a great day.
Want you to bleed